When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs. And as you know, week after week, we bring in experts that are going to share with you a little bit more about how you can design your life to look the way you want it to look. And how many of you have a job or are walking around doing something to earn money? We all know, right? That's the only reason why we're working, is because everything around us costs money, whether it's food or housing or whatever that may look like, schools, clothing, or we would all just be walking around naked and not have any homes. And that would be really weird for us to see out there. But that's why we're working. So is what you're doing aligned for you with who you are? Is it aligned with your purpose? Many of you have heard my story when I left corporate America back in 2018. I loved what I did with my clients. I was not aligned with kind of the corporate structure. And I had figured that out. And it took many, many, many years to figure that out. And I am beyond happy and joyful. And the money's like, yeah, the money's great. But I will tell you, the happiness, my time freedom, my choice freedom, all of that is so much more important to me. And I'm aligned with my purpose of taking women and moving them to financial independence so they can make enough money in their businesses to have choices. And that goes all the way back to when I was 17. You all know I left home and I didn't have the greatest upbringing. And I will tell you, I knew I needed to be financial independent, but that independence has given me my choices. Now that I'm 52, what choices are you making? Are you making choices to align yourself? We're going to talk about alignment and purpose today. That's why I brought that up. And Anne Shoemaker's here, very excited. She moved to Sweden, and I've got some really great background on her. So I'm excited to talk with her all the way from Greensboro, North Carolina today. But before we do, I want to thank today's sponsor of today's show, Ally Spine Center. And what sets their office apart from other offices is their focus and expertise in treating degenerative spinal conditions, including disc disease, bulging herniated discs, spinal stenosis, neuropathy, sciatica, pain, tingling, and numbness in the arms, hands, legs, and feet, as well as severe and chronic neck pain and headaches. And I will tell you, I had severe chronic pain in my neck, and I went there, and they're just an amazing office. They specialize in corrective care, not just the treatment of the symptoms. I think that was the main thing for me. So they use physical medicine modalities, and in many cases, they do take the pre and post images to help you determine your structural improvements of the spine. So they are located here in Scottsdale, Arizona. However, they know of corrective care locations all around the country. So please reach out to Chris and Allie at 480-809-4700 and be sure to visit them at allyspinecenter.com. And we have all of that information at your fingertips so you can connect with them directly. Please, please, please stop living in pain. So not worth it. Let me just tell you, it's so not worth it. And stop doing things you don't love to do. That's why we're talking about alignment and purpose today. And Anne has over 20 years in leadership in roles such as a chief operating officer and general manager. Anne Shoemaker has designed, built, and scaled programs and businesses, units in support of organizational success and employee development. Her professional experience spans all aspects of operations, change management, and marketing and communications with the global and U.S.-based businesses, and is the founder of WBENC, Certified Women Business Enterprise, and offers strategy, advisory, and coaching services towards supporting and elevating women into positions of influence in their careers and communities. And I love that so much. Anne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Colleen.
I was reading when you were talking about your expertise that you really help these leaders tap into their authenticity so they can lead the lives of alignment and purpose. When we're talking about tapping into authenticity, I would love to understand your definition of that and what you have found with women over the years of working with them, whether it was as a chief operating officer or now as an entrepreneur of a women business enterprise. What have you found when you're talking to women about authenticity that maybe they're just not grasping?
Yes, I think, there's plenty that's been told and said about women's intuition. And oftentimes, for better or for worse, we hear about women's intuition when it comes to motherhood or some of the traditional roles of women. But I think that intuition is that voice inside of us that's telling us, maybe it's right from wrong, or do this next, or do that next. And somewhere along the way, we've kind of dialed down the volume on our intuition when it comes to our careers. We think, well, I think this might be the best path, but I've been taught that I need to do, what my manager says or whatever. And I'm not saying that you need to disregard what your manager says, but I think there's an intuition and an inner knowing about what fills us up in our careers,
Mm.
or what's the next step that we need to take in our careers, or where we're out of alignment with our careers or with our employer. And oftentimes the volume on that is really low. And we just think, oh, I'll get to that. Or maybe in 5 years or 10 years, I'll really pay attention to that voice. So I'm always trying to help women reconnect with their authenticity, reconnect with their intuition, and really give space to the voice that's inside of them that's telling them what the next right step is.
Yeah, we all have had that voice. I in my career, I was always climbing the corporate ladder. That was the thing, like climb the corporate ladder. Back in the day, that was the thing. Okay, my kids today, that's not the thing anymore. And they're in their 30s. So they're like, yeah, climbing the corporate ladder. No, you just leave and go get another job making more money at another company. That's kind of what they do. I remember sitting in front of a CEO and he literally said to me these words: "You're not a leader." And I felt sick to my stomach because I was like, this isn't right. Something he's saying isn't lining up with me. Like,
Yes.
why, how is it that I'm a director at my church? How is it that I'm a director in my community? And all these people see me as a leader. And then all of a sudden, this individual in front of me says that. And I'm like, oh, it was like a punch in the gut. And it really hurt me for a while because I was like, am I not a leader? I
Mhm.
believe that one person, but everything in me said that was wrong. Is that what we're talking about?
That is exactly what we're talking
Yeah,
about. And I can share a story that very similar to
please.
what you just said. But I was in a role for 5 or 6 years, and probably within the first year or two, I knew it wasn't maybe a great fit, but I had stuck it out and thought, maybe I can prove my worth or my contributions. And in every other aspect of my life and career, I had been able to contribute and demonstrate great value. And I had kind of gotten into a downward spiral where what I was putting out wasn't getting recognized, which made me want to work harder. And then that wasn't getting recognized. And then at certain points, I said, well, just to heck with it, I'm just going to pull back entirely. And of course, that wasn't getting recognized. And so for me, in the midst of all of this, I had given up parts of myself. I had stopped exercising, which was as I look back on it, it's such a big tell because I think of myself as an athlete, and exercise has always been a huge part of my personal wellness. And in my drive to succeed in this role, I had given that up. And somewhere along the way, somebody invited me to go to a workout class with them. And I said, yeah, maybe I should do that. And I started working out again. And I really thought that that was just going to be about working out and physical fitness. And it changed me entirely because I started to see myself sitting at my desk going, I can do this thing in the gym. And I can, when I'm running and I feel strong, or when I feel strong in my body, like I'm reminded that I'm a strong person and I have value and I'm capable of things. And yes, it may have just been, taking a bicep curl up, but it was such a reminder that of my worth. And so anyway, I remember sitting in my office one day and I can see like the desk in front of me and looking down and saying, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. If I have worth in all these other areas and I can make contributions in all these other areas and have at other employers, maybe it's not me. maybe I need to go and do something else. So just like you said, we can give these people, a boss, this outsized portion of our brain and our belief about ourselves. And sometimes we have to do something or have a certain conversation that can kind of put that back into perspective and say, maybe this is just not the right fit. It's not that you're wrong or you don't have worth, but this is not the right environment in which, you can grow.
Okay, we need to have a girl talk real quick about fitness because I am an avid workout person, crazy fitness. Like I work out every day. I was working out on my mirror this morning. I love working out. I was a personal trainer at one point, and I was like, nah, I don't know if I like teaching working out as much as I love working out, but marathons, black belt. I'm a black belt in martial arts. I love to work out. So I think fitness has a lot to do with our mindset and our psyche and the feeling of being strong and strength. How do you, because I utilize fitness and everything that comes along with that, all the chemical changes in your body, I utilize that as the driver for my success in business. And my husband and I own 4. So, how do you use fitness? Because this is something we don't talk a lot about. But when we're talking about alignment and purpose, one of the ways I think you get to that is knowing yourself inside and out. So, tell me
Absolutely.
what that does for you.
Absolutely. And so as a child and then as a young adult, fitness kind of was isolated. It was in that silo of athlete and also play and competition. And so I worked out so that I could compete well and win, so to speak. And it wasn't really until this situation where I found myself, pretty depressed and out of sorts in my employment arrangement that I realized how important it was for my mental health. But the line I would draw to connect the two is kind of, as you said, like feeling strong inside your body is such a metaphor for feeling strong inside your mind. And I think, a lot of times with the women that I coach, they may come in and say, well, gosh, I haven't interviewed in 10 years and I really want to leave my job, but I don't even know if I'm capable of that anymore. Those skills are so rusty. And I always use the metaphor of exercise of it's not that you can't do a bicep curl.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you can't do a 30-pound bicep curl. So we're going to start with 2-pound weights. What's the access point for you in a certain skill? Maybe somebody's in finance, they want to get into IT and they don't know how to how to bridge that gap. And I say, what's the smallest step that you can take in that direction? So for me, fitness is a great metaphor to say, it's not that you're not capable of running a marathon. It's that your marathon training starts with 1 mile.
That's
and
right.
You don't have to run 26 miles all at once today. You can do it in 3 years if you want to, but you just have to start, and you have to start at a point of accessibility.
It's with everything. Starting a business, you just have to start. You just have to start. And I always say to get a mentor, to get a guide, to whatever that is, right? So if you want to run, be a runner, start getting in groups that people run. Start working with mentors of someone that can teach you what you need to do fitness wise, nutrition wise, And so what you do in coaching and mentoring, and what I do is, with women and the mentoring and coaching that I do, it is so crucial because we are always at a point in our lives where we don't know something. We get there all the time, every level, every new thing that you try, acquiring a business versus starting a business, very different mindset. It's very different how you look at a business when you buy one, because we've bought businesses versus starting them from startup and from scratch. So when you're working with your clients, you've taken a lot of leaps. I've asked questions, and for my listeners, I ask a lot of questions of my guests, like, where are some times you've taken your leaps? And I love stories when you're like, I quit my job and I moved to Sweden when I was 23. And who wanted to quit their job and move to Sweden when they were 23? I did, right? But I didn't because I was too scared to. So it sounds to me like you've taken some leaps over your lifetime that maybe you didn't know how it was going to turn out in the end, but it is what has shaped you into to really understanding, like, whatever I do, I need to be authentic in that, and that's going to drive that purpose for me.
Absolutely. And you brought up Sweden, and that's a perfect story in terms of authenticity, because if you knew me and the type of driven, hard worker, type A type of person, when I called my parents to say, I'm going to quit my job in Washington, D.C. at a very well-known consulting firm and go live in Sweden with no plan, with my boyfriend, by the way, um, you know, at least one phone call that I had was like, are you out of your mind?
Mhm.
Another phone call that I had said, go, be free, do it now. This is the time. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for both of those. But that was a moment where I said, you know, I always wanted to study abroad. I played college soccer. That wasn't possible to study abroad with the commitment that I had made. And even though I didn't have a plan, I did have some of the bases covered in terms of we had shelter, we had a car, we had an income. So it was an opportunity to say, here's my opportunity. And I just need to take the leap, get the plane ticket and go. And let's test some things. How is this relationship? Is this strong? Can it survive? What can I do? Can I find employment? Can I, and I ended up going back to school and getting a master's degree. And it turns out that it was free. So like none of those were things that I had looked into before I went, but I took the leap and believed in myself that inner knowing that said, this is something you need to explore. You've always wanted to live abroad. Even though I was a French major, I would have loved to have lived in France. But we lived in Sweden. I made some of the best friends of my life and ended up walking away with a master's degree with debt free. So that inner knowing, I believe, and people have all different sorts of beliefs, but it can start and end with the inner knowing, or you can believe that it's connected to a higher knowing. And whatever you believe is right for you. But for me, I feel like there were a lot of forces that were coming together saying, I got you, and it's okay, but you need to follow what I'm telling you to do.
I think, I know in my business, I pray a lot and I talk about God on my podcast, and I welcome anyone to talk about whatever their belief is for sure. But I pray a lot for decisions, and then I give myself some space and meditate and, wait for answers. It could be weeks or whatever that looks like. But I believe that there's a time when we get like a confirmation to know, like, yeah, this feels right. This is something I need to do. And it again, those around us get scared because they're not where we are. And I think we need to address that because, like you said, someone was like, you're crazy. Well, that was them speaking because they wouldn't do it.
Right.
Right. Just like that CEO, I really believe to today, that CEO speaking to me was speaking about himself, not really about me.
Right.
But I didn't understand that back then. And I still believe that there are women out there today that don't understand that. They don't have the knowledge of that when someone else is labeling them something, it's the person that is struggling with it that's putting the label on them. It's not their label to own, to walk around with. And are you finding that women that are coming to you, they're just drowning in labels of maybe things that they've put on themselves, other people have put on them, because deep down they're like, but I know I'm really good at this, but no one's giving me a chance or no one's listening to me.
Right. Yes. Yes to all the above. Yes, we're drowning in labels. One of the words that I'm always on the lookout for is the word should. And I think maybe it's a little ugly, but don't should on yourself. Don't should. If you have so many shoulds that are coming up, I should be taking the chicken out of the freezer and not sitting here resting after my long day. I really should be, doing X, Y, and Z. Like, we need all kinds of things in our lives to feel whole. And that includes rest. And that includes wellness and activity. That includes self-care, not caring for others at certain times. Yes, we do lots of things to take care of the people who are important to us. And we can't do that if we haven't taken a moment to breathe, to meditate, to connect with whatever we believe in. And I do think it's important that women understand that other people do come to us with labels, and that's fine. That's up to them. What we do with those labels and their opinions, that's up to us. So that's where I want to help people, as you said, kind of say, is this about him and his belief of my leadership capabilities? And that's fine. He can believe I'm not a leader. I know I am.
Yeah.
And then for me, like in a coaching, discussion would say like, so what can we do about that? What's the smallest step that you can take to kind of work on that leadership muscle a little bit and make sure that that's really an area you want to pour more into before you quit the job or do the next thing. Like, let's go ahead and test it some.
My
So,
perspective on it really is I'm in my 50s. I just turned 52 on April 7th, and my husband's in his 60s. Our kids, we have two that are under 30, the rest of them are in their 30s. And I think to myself, this is my time. Like, if I don't ever choose in my life ever to say, like, I want to live my life the way I want to live it, like, I'm leaving to go to Cabo this weekend. Trust me, there's a lot of grandchildren stuff going on. I'm going to miss. My husband and I are going out of town next weekend for my birthday because we were babysitting grandchildren over my birthday. We're missing a lot of activities that are happening. And there's a part of us that feels really bad about that. But I will also tell you that I started having children when I was so young. I was like 19 when I got pregnant first, when I was married. And I'm like, I was a kid having kids. I have
right,
had children my entire life and grandchildren.
right.
When do we finally say, and this goes for having a job, maybe someone that you've been dating for 6 or 7 years that you don't want to date anymore? When are you ever going to say, this is my life? I'm going
Right.
to give myself permission to make choices, to do the things I love to do. Like, maybe you feel like your family needs you, but I will tell you, your fitness needs you more because we pour from empty cups. Like, you've got to fill yourself up. I started going to retreats this year is the first time. Like, I'm in my 50s and it's the first time I'm doing this stuff.
Yeah,
And it feels so good to not feel guilty doing things for me, for what
right.
I need. Like, I remember being at Disneyland and loved the Incredicoaster so much. I told my husband, go catch up with the kids and grandkids. I'm going to go on as a single rider 3 more times because I get this such a high when I ride a fast roller coaster. I laugh, I giggle, my stomach, gets all fluttery, and it feels so fun that I
Yeah.
just wanted to keep riding the roller coaster. And I only took 30 minutes to keep riding it. And then I caught up with everyone. He's like, how you doing? I'm like, that was like the funnest time of my entire year, was
Yes.
being on that coaster.
And
You
that,
have to do this.
yes. So I'm always encouraging people, just it sounds like exactly the same as you, of being mindful, and my mindfulness or meditation practice can help with this, but being mindful of what you're doing, who you're with, when you feel like the fullest expression of yourself.
Mm,
And so a lot of the coaching I do is at the intersection of career and life, but the same thing applies in your career.
I love
Like,
that.
what meeting were you in where you thought this is really fun? And if you haven't been in a meeting recently where you thought this is really fun and cool, like, let's hold space for that. What
Right.
would make for a really fun and exciting experience for you in your career at work? For me, on a personal level, like, I love water skiing. So kind of like how
Oh,
you love the roller coaster. Like,
yeah.
as a kid, I used to water ski, and then of course life, and I've set that aside. But on some family trips, to with friends who have boats, which are great friends, always friends with
Always
boats.
have a friend with a boat. Don't
Yes,
ever have a boat. I've had a boat. It's a lot of upkeep. Just have a
yes,
friend with a boat.
100%. But it's like, water skiing is just, as you said,
Yeah.
I mean, I find myself back there, however many feet behind the boat, just laughing. I don't even know what's going on in my head, but I'm giggling. And the thought of just
Yeah.
freedom and nature and family and all the things, or sitting on a boat, whatever. That's when I feel like the fullest expression of myself. So I can't necessarily water ski as a profession, but I'm in touch with what it feels like to feel fully alive. And I think that's what I want to impart on women, is to say, we don't have to go once every 10 years to feel fully alive. We need to have moments of joy and moments of pleasure and know how to
Mhm.
access that. And what are the elements that allow us to access that? So while I don't have a boat, like, I do love being outside. I love physical fitness and I love my
Mhm.
family. We can go on a hike. And I may or may not, just giggle wildly with laughter, but it fills me up in a very similar way as
Yeah.
it does when I'm water skiing.
Yeah.
So try to look for the common threads would be, something I would counsel women on, of what makes you feel alive and how can you come just as close to that as you can on a weekly or daily basis, career and otherwise.
Yeah, I work out on a mirror, like the Lululemon mirror. And the reason why I do that is because I usually curse out my personal trainer the entire time I'm working out. Cause I'm like, are you serious, girl? Do you know how heavy those weights are? I can't lift that. I'm constantly cursing them out and it's hilarious. But I love it because I'm the type of person that I don't want to get in the car and get all dressed and drive to a gym. And I used to do that way back in the day, and I don't feel like it anymore. I want to just get it over in the morning and do it. And I feel great and I get in the shower and I get ready and I feel strong for the day. It like sets me up. And, I was just laughing at some of the things you were saying because I think if you haven't even laughed in a while, you need to start questioning your life. Anna and I are here to give all of you permission today. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, life is not that bad. I have a friend that was in the NBA, and he shared with me that when their plane went down, like he was in a plane crash that crashed.
Yeah.
He said everyone was on the phones. They were trying to burn the fuel off with the, circling around it so it wouldn't be so blow up on impact when they went down. And he said no one to check their bank accounts. Nobody talked about work. No one called and said, "Hey, I need you to take over this stuff from our." Not one person. Everyone
Right.
called everyone they loved.
Mhm.
So if relationships are so important, then why is that not the first thing that we are focusing on in our entire life until the day we die? Why?
100%.
He
Yeah.
said for some people, that was the worst day of their life. For some people, they became victims after that. He said that changed my entire life. And he went a completely career shift. And he said,
Wow.
I was into like money and models and all that stuff back then. And he said, now he's like a shaman. He's
Wow.
into relationships and helping people find their inner peace and working through trauma. And I'm like, he's like, that is the most important thing on earth. So for every woman listening, if you're not the most important person to you, there's a problem.
Right.
So you need to treat yourself as if you are. And my gosh, would you do something to laugh? I don't care if you got to get on your phone for 5 minutes after this and watch a TikTok comedy or something.
Yes.
Laugh. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we have to have those moments to break, right?
Yeah.
We have to allow ourselves the space for that. There's an author who I really like, Tiffany Dufu. She founded The Crew. I think she's now leading the charge at I'm gonna remember it here in a minute, but she's a wonderful leader. But she's written a book called Drop the Ball. Um, and in it, she tells her story of kind of intersection of career and life. And at the end, she basically sums it up and says, you will not be able to advance in your career or live the life you want if you are not crystal clear on what matters most to you.
That's
And
it.
I would just add to that and say, get clear on what matters most to you, then make sure your to-do list and your calendar reflect that.
Yeah.
Because you can say family comes first or my marriage comes first and have a full calendar of work. So
Mhm.
making sure there's alignment
I love it.
between what you know and believe matters most to you and how you're actually living.
That worked out perfect. You must have been reading my mind. I was going to say, do you read? Is there a favorite
Yeah,
book that you have?
yeah,
That was perfect. So that
wonderful.
worked out really great. What one last thing would you like to leave with the listeners of something that you feel is just crucial for them to hear today based on what your intuition is telling you?
Well, what it's telling me is there's alignment between you and I, Colleen, on you mentioned meditation earlier,
Yeah.
and it's free. You
Mhm.
can do it by yourself. There's guided meditations on YouTube and all over the web, but make sure you're spending time with yourself in a quiet space so you can hear your intuition
Mhm.
because it won't always scream at the top of its lungs.
Mhm.
Sometimes it just kind of taps. And if you're not listening to it, you'll miss it. So
I
I
love that.
encourage you to just spend a moment or two in silence. You can start small, 30 seconds. You can work your way up if you're somebody who likes to see progress, but spend some time quietly with yourself.
And you are a doll. Like, I love that you're really driven, right? That's me. Like, I love to be around really driven women, but I also love to be around women that are not only driven, but they understand themselves and they just have this heart of gold for lifting and elevating and empowering other people. And I
Thank
feel
you.
like you do that. And I know our listeners are going to want to connect with you. Are you kidding me? Like, why wouldn't they? So, do you want them to go on your website and do something? Do you want them to connect with you socially? What is the way that you like to connect with
Sure.
listeners?
Yes. So I'm on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. And so I'm Ann Shoemaker. That's Ann with an E and Shoemaker. I'm also on Instagram, and I have let loose a little bit more over there. And that's at Career Advisor Ann. On my website, which is annshoemaker.com, I have tons of free resources. So there's, I think, over a dozen cheat sheets and things to keep in mind that might be helpful for people as they navigate their careers and the intersection of career and life.
I love that. Well, I know that everyone's going to want to go out and check you out. So you can go to AnnShoemaker.com. Don't forget to connect with her at Ann Shoemaker Greensboro on LinkedIn. So you can just look her up. We'll have it all at your fingertips here. You can just click on it. And I love IG, right? I love Instagram, and I just kind of let loose everywhere. I have zero filter. So people, you get what you get all the time with me. There is no filter. It doesn't matter if it's on LinkedIn or if it's on Facebook or Instagram, or if you see me in person. I just am who I am. And it's very clear for everyone exactly who Colleen Biggs is. And I think we can say today we know exactly who Ann Shoemaker is too, based on what you've shared with us today. So thank you for taking us on that journey and giving women permission to really design their life, as we talked about from the very beginning, and get into alignment and purpose. And if you're not living an authentic life, Ann is the person you need to reach out to, because she's going to be the one that's going to get you. I love where she said she's at the intersection of career and life, right? So that's very important. You are in both of those. So they're not separate things. Please remember, it is your life. Align it all the way that you want it to be aligned. And Ann's the person that can take you there. And remember, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be. So if not now, when? I mean, I'm 52. I've got probably another, the way I'm looking at it, I think I have another 50 years. I want to live to be like 102. So if I have 50 more years, and I just really felt like I spent the first half of my life doing what everyone else wanted, raising my kids, doing the whole deal, right? Whatever your parents wanted, then I went into being a parent, and it was all about the kids and then career and doing, I felt like I was constantly trying to be something for everybody else. And this is the first time in my life, it's like, what is my purpose? What do I want? What do I want my life to look like for the rest of my life? And that's exciting. It's like riding a roller coaster. It's like water skiing. What is it that you want to do? Ask yourself that question, write it down, send us an email at info@colleenbiggs.net. Connect with Ann over on LinkedIn. Please, please, please. That's a great place to connect with someone, because you can follow them, check them out, and they don't even have to know you're there sometimes till you're ready to ask a question or talk to them. So that's fun. I am going to go check out your IG now and go start following you at Career Advisor Ann. That's where you're going to find her on Instagram. So, Ann, thanks again for being part of today's show. And to all of you, remember, be you and be strong. Until next time, goodbye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.